You and me ride in cars and wear perfume, and this man is a cannibal who coats himself in ash and drinks from a human skull. In the 21st century, the traditions of people around the world still differ by millennia. In the dense Amazon rainforests, in the wilds of Asia and African savannas, there are cultures with the wildest traditions. In huts made of branches, they not only survive, but can also brutalize uninvited guests from another civilization. You're on the Top Facts channel, and our today's selection of stories will tell you about the world's most mysterious tribes. Let's watch, and let's get to the islands. Papua New Guinea is probably the most unusual people in the world. This is a part of the world that will delight us with a colorful variety of preserved archaic tribes. The most amazing thing is that they seem to live on the territory of one country, but their traditions, physical data, and external attributes, as well as behavior and beliefs, are radically different from each other. Well then, let's go straight to the heart of the matter. This giant woman is not a champion among her tribe, but just a tall lady. It's said that giants died out about 60,000 years ago, but this mysterious tribe may prove us wrong. They can be called the descendants of giants because abnormally tall for us is the norm for them. These are the sizes that make you feel like a dwarf. Let's talk about the Marind Anim tribe, who most likely remain here as a reminder of ancient races of giants. This stretch of land was formerly one with Australia and still holds the remains of extinct species of megafauna, most of which are unique to New Guinea. Mega means very large, probably, since the animals here were of gigantic size. What can we say about people? The island of New Guinea is conventionally divided into the eastern side, which is Papua New Guinea proper, and the western side, which is part of Indonesia, and the western side, which is part of Indonesia. That's why the inhabitants are so different here. It's as if they were collected from an encyclopedia. The tribe of giants live from the left bank of the Bin River to the Mo River in the west. This Papuan people have a strong physique, and most of them are much taller and stronger than any average Indonesian. Moreover, the name of the tribe is interpreted as Marind means men, and the word Enim literally means women. Their population does not exceed 15,000 people, but their average height is considered to be between 190 centimeters and over 2 meters. While teenagers between 14 and 15 years old in this tribal group can already reach 180 centimeters in height, this is certainly a mark above average height. How do they apply their superpowers? Most of them work as farmers and cultivators, but some of them hunt in the forests and fish in the river. Do you think they should all be made world team athletes? I think competition in the world of big sports depends not so much on height as on skill, and I don't think they'd agree to leave their land. The Chimbu are a fairly advanced people who inhabit the central part of Papua New Guinea. They have perhaps the most intimidating national costumes, so their battle coloring mimics a skeleton. Who would want to fight death? Chimbu invented these decorations for protection. According to legend, they were eaten by a forest demon, and to protect themselves from him, they had to pretend to be spirits of death. I must say, they replicated the anatomy of the skeleton in such a way that you can't look at them without shuddering. I can imagine the reaction of the first Christian missionaries who came across them in 1934. Moreover, the coloring is equally used by men and women. Children get only the smallest part. Chimbu families, unlike other tribes, are monogamous, but a man does not live in the same house with his wife, children, and, by the way, pigs. Pigs are kept for the Great Feast, which is organized once every few years. Then several thousand can go to a big feast. Apparently, many people of the tribe are waiting for the opportunity to make matchmaking because such is the scale. Nowadays, traditional rituals and skeleton costumes have also become more part of the feast, which is played in public. But at least the art of applying this makeup is still passed down from father to son. Prepare to be horrified again. The appearance of this tribe is as scary as a skeleton, although they are also called mud people. This is how the indigenous people of Papua New Guinea express themselves. Their unique, creepy masks and dance ceremonies are world famous. They live in small settlements near the Asaro River, and although the tribes are small, there are many clans. Because of this isolation, the dialect of the communities can vary, which is probably why ritual dances are so common here. Body language requires no translation, and at least you can understand each other's intentions. I don't know why people in this part of the world invented clay masks, but their name, Hosas, means spirit. There is a legend that a neighboring tribe tried to attack the peaceful Papuans, so they hid by the river. When the villagers returned, their bodies were smeared with white clay. The banks there are just rich in liquid mud. Their enemies mistook them for spirits and fled. Since then, the masks have served as a spectacular scare and are used at ceremonies and festivals. Each has its own unique face with horns or tusks. Some may have ears and noses. In general, they are created with all the imagination, who can do what they like, and also Asaro use bamboo to lengthen the fingers. Apparently, it symbolizes the predatory claws. You have to admit, when they're circling you like that, the last thing you'd think of is cultural exchange. The first thing you'll think of is that you might be about to be eaten. Well, there's another bogeyman on the rise. The Aghori tribe is believed to be over 1,000 years old, but their practices are still shocking. They are followers of a Hindu sect whose name can be translated as holy man. Their main aspiration is to gain fearlessness, but the methods by which they achieve it will horrify even the most cold-blooded of you. Their radical path to enlightenment is at odds with Orthodox Hinduism, which is why the Aghori have earned the reputation of being the most feared tribe in India. They worship Shiva and Shakti, the gods of destruction, and Kali, the goddess of death, which explains why the Aghori are often based near crematoriums and cemeteries. They also inhabit the cold caves of the Himalayas, the dense jungles of Bengal, and the hot deserts of Gujarat. One of the most famous practices of the Aghori is ritual cannibalism. They don't intentionally kill people, but they do something that makes us shudder, eating the raw flesh of bodies destined for cremation. We can blame them for their inhumanity all we want. They believe that our fears are just delusions and obstacles to spiritual development. According to their concepts, there is no difference between good and evil, so they see no problem with eating human flesh the way people eat animals. Allegedly, these practices help to subdue the ego. I don't know if eating flesh and feces for the sake of spiritual advancement is worth it, but they see better. Perhaps in the abject poverty and unsanitary conditions in India, this cult served as a last refuge for the desperate. But to be saved by madness from madness seems strange to me, just there's no difference here. Another important practice is that the Aghori do not wear clothes, often making do with just a loincloth, but may appear in the nude. In this way, they seek to overcome shame and demonstrate their rejection of the material world, their attachment to things and possessions. Instead, the Aghori smear their bodies with the ashes of cremated remains in imitation of Shiva, who is believed to protect the Aghori from disease. It is not uncommon to see them with skulls. It is their symbol, but they are not squeamish about using it as a regular bowl. You have already realized that these holy people have lost the ability to see the line between good and bad. Personally, I urgently need a breath of fresh air, so we are now going to visit the other guys. The best place to breathe fresh air is in huts in tall trees. You and I are once again transported to the southeastern part of Papua New Guinea to see how the Korowai tribe lives. It was only recently discovered in the 1970s, and before that, they believed they were the only people on Earth. They had no contact with the Western world, and many of today's Korowai have never seen a white-skinned human. However, among their skills are the most amazing feats of engineering, namely the ability to build a great treehouse as tall as a high-rise building. The hut is mounted on stilts, the roof is covered with a giant palm leaf, and the only way to get up there is by wooden ladders. Such a hut is attached to a massive banyan tree, and inside it is spacious, cozy, dry, and does not need air conditioning. Of course, the greatest danger for such a village is a fire, but even here, the cows have shown ingenuity. They have created fire pits to prevent the fire from spreading to the trees. Their homes are not as mysterious as their beliefs. The Korowai believe in otherworldly forces, demons, and evil spirits. And if one of their tribesmen was captured by a demon, that person was supposed to be killed and eaten. We don't know if this story serves to scare away tourists or if it's true. The white man here has a good chance of ending up in a pot of soup. Let's not find out and move on. Right. Let's go to Russia. It's quieter here, even though it's not hot. Let's visit reindeer herders. The Nenets, in fact, are the most iconic people of the north who persevere in the permafrost and keep their traditions in this harsh climate. The Yamal Peninsula, in the language of the indigenous population, literally and figuratively, also probably means the end of the world. These are endless wetlands washed by the Kara Sea, and they go far beyond the Arctic Circle. Despite the fact that climate change and the intrusion of technological advances are constantly threatening the natural resources and the opportunities to live on their native land, as their ancestors did, the Nenets are a hardy people who are determined to preserve their traditions and customs. The Nenets move huge herds between winter and summer pastures, which is thousands of kilometers a year, while crossing frozen rivers in frosts that we have never dreamed of. The temperature here reaches 50 degrees Celsius. Literally, the blood runs cold in your veins. However, the Nenets travel with their herds according to the long tradition of nomads. Deer here is not only transportation, but also clothing and income. In addition, the animal is highly revered within the tribe. The Nenets believe that reindeer sacrifice themselves to humans as food and transportation in exchange for the protection of their entire species from predators. So the tribe's relationship with these animals is more of a spiritual part of the culture. The reindeer is also a valuable treasure in terms of national patrimony. I think they would be more willing to part with any iron car than live reindeer. It's as obvious as the fact that Santa Claus can't drive a cab. There is a hypothesis that the peoples of the far north and the American continent are related. The progenitors of the Indians, the people of both Americas, most likely left their historical homeland about 23,000 years ago. It is believed that they moved through the Bering Strait along a land isthmus that periodically appeared and disappeared. For about 8 millennia, part of the migrants stayed in Kamchatka, and the population split into different branches already on the territory of North America. There is an opinion, supported by research, that the closest relatives of Native Americans are Yakuts and Nenets. So let's go the same way and go down to the Amazon basin and see if there are any traces of their descendants left there. To the question of whether or not all Indians have disappeared from the face of the earth, you must have asked yourself how an entire civilization can be wiped out without a trace, right? Surely there must have been some hard-to-reach places in the world where the conquerors didn't reach and the woodcutter's axe didn't reach. That's right. The world is full of corners where small tribes have managed to survive without getting involved in the world's meat grinder. The Yanomami are a group of related Indian tribes of about 35,000 people who live in the dense jungles of northern Brazil and southern Venezuela. They live in small villages and sometimes change their homes if they need to settle in a new area to agricultural expansion. Their method is shifting cultivation. They burn patches of forest to clear space for planting. The point is that wood ash fertilizes and sanitizes the soil and eliminates weeds. Our grandmothers knew this and practiced it in their garden plots. The practice of surviving in the rainforest has been going on for unknown thousands of years and is not harmful to the environment when modern pesticide use has widespread consequences. The Yanomami Indians also hunt deer, monkeys, armadillos, birds. Anything that can give the tribe a warlike reputation goes in favor of the cause. The law of the jungle is this: to be scary is to survive, especially good if your neighbors are afraid of you. We'll have to stay in South America for a while. There's a lot to see. On the border between Peru and Brazil in the Amazon rainforest live about 2,000 people of the Matses tribe. They look like mustached cats because their noses on both sides are studded with thin sticks that look like cat whiskers. You can only get there by boat if you swim 2 days downstream, so the way of life there has remained traditional and has not changed much over the centuries. The Matses have an extensive knowledge of plants and use almost all of them as traditional medicine, while skillfully controlling soil fertility and animal populations to prevent resource depletion. The Galvez and Javari rivers are not just the natural boundary of their habitat, but also their main source of livelihood. They have water, fish, and meat. But the local cuisine consists mainly of organic products, in which there is no shortage. Fruits grow themselves, and the Indians successfully grow vegetable crops, such as manioca, and eat a lot of greens. The Métisses also have their own exotic specialties, such as chapo, a drink made from boiled bananas, which is drunk hot. Another unusual hot remedy is made from a green tree frog. The liquid it secretes is smeared on wooden sticks and injected into the skin of both men and women. This compound gives energy and enhances hunting ability. In the first moments when the poison enters the bloodstream, there is dizziness and nausea, but these soon give way to clarity and increased tone. This invigorated state can last for days. When the tribe uses forest plants to treat illnesses, they talk to them. They believe that plants and animals have spirits, and if you negotiate with them, you can heal the human body. The tribe has adapted quite well and copes within the confines of their isolation. You and I couldn't do that. Another Amazonian tribe, the Huaorani, still live in the Stone Age. 4,000 people inhabit the jungles of eastern Ecuador. And they do have extra fingers, in the form of outgrowths on their hands, and on their feet, the toes are curved in a special way to make climbing trees easier. So atavisms are still relevant to them. Their language is one of the most mysterious in the world. It is not related to any other, so it is impossible to trace the true origin of the mysterious tribe. Because of this, we don't recognize their history. In addition, during all these unknown years, the Huaorani refused any contact with the civilized world. Attempts at contact from the outside ended badly. American missionaries in Ecuador in the 1950s tried to contact the Huaorani. When they landed a small plane to communicate with the tribe, they started throwing spears at them. Aborigines use for hunting and blowpipes with poison curare, which paralyzes the muscles and breathing of the animal. And they also hunt monkeys. Now it is clear why they need such feet with claws, to climb palm trees. But parrots are not food for Huaorani. They gladly keep them as pets. Now let's move to the cradle of civilization, Africa. Northern Namibia is home to the nomadic Himba tribe, whose women are considered some of the most beautiful on the continent, and their portraits often grace the covers of the world's popular magazines. They number about 50,000 and have survived not only the extreme climate of their territory, but also through wars and persecution. The tribe leads a semi-nomadic lifestyle in an isolated area and maintains its cultural traditions. The word Himba itself means beggars, but they don't feel that way. And in general, the Himba culture is one of meticulous grooming. You will say, what kind of care is there, if even to wash in such an area is impossible? But this is not the main thing. The main thing is to properly decorate yourself according to your age and position in society. As hundreds of years ago, women still smear their skin with red ochre mixed with lard. And although children go to school, much in everyday life has remained unchanged, because the Himba people do not want to disappear into civilization. Teenage girls braid 2 pigtails towards their foreheads, like a visor to cover their eyes. After marriage, women dye their braids with ochre, and men wear an elaborate turban. So they have access to the modern world. But the Himba do not want to lose their freedom and individuality. The Surma tribe live in southern Ethiopia and Sudan. Although they are still considered nomads, the Surma are no longer leaving their own region, living a largely sedentary life of herding cattle and growing grain. Their distinctive features, firstly, are battles on thin sticks. In itself, a spectacular spectacle, and not very bloodthirsty. Each participant is armed with a hardwood pole and uses it as a lever. It is necessary to strike the opponent as many blows as possible to knock out of the game. Usually unmarried men compete, so you already know how it ends. The winner heads to a flock of brides who are waiting to see whose hand he asks for. And secondly, the women of this tribe are worth talking about in particular. They have chosen lip plates as a measure of beauty, which gradually stretch their mouths to incredible sizes. It is time to make jokes about rolling and rolling of such lips. But the tradition is still popular. The lip can be turned into a hood if you want. What does this do for a woman, you ask? Very simple. Since in the tribe of cattle breeders, the price is determined by the number of heads of cattle, the bride with the largest lip plate, like a saucer with a blue stone, will cost up to 50 heads of cattle. As they do not argue about tastes, so apparently on purpose, the traditions of beauty in different peoples of the world are different, so that the tribes retain their identity. By the way, people from all over the world come to look at these outlandish beauties, so they do not suffer from lack of attention. And now it's time to dive. The Moken are an Austronesian tribe, ethnic group of about 2,000 people, and they're all water people. Yes, they literally live in the water, like fish, and their children learn to swim before they can walk and can dive like divers from a very young age. The Moken only live on land during the monsoon. That's about 3 months of the year, and the rest of the time they spend in the ocean as a job. Men, women, and children collect shellfish, hunt for fish, and exchange them for rice. So, their only currency is seafood, and they exchange it for basic necessities at local markets. And during the rainy season, they build boats and temporary huts. For life in the water, they have an exceptional ability. The Moken can hold their breath for a long time and see perfectly underwater, which is far beyond the capabilities of an ordinary healthy person. Already in children, visual focus is adjusted so that underwater they are perfectly oriented and are able to see even the most camouflaged prey. Another interesting feature of children is that their skin has adapted to constant contact with salt water, and it forms a white, scaly layer. It looks like the dermatologic disease ichthyosis and suggests the thought, are they not half amphibians? The same picture was painted in the Disney cartoon Luca. Who knows, what if your best friend on this island turns out to be half human, half fish? Some tribes boast a good pedigree. A unique tribe whose name sounds like Brokpa or Drakpa are known for their high physical endurance. Despite the fact that there are about 4,000 of them left in the whole world, they successfully preserve their gene pool due to strict social rules. The Brokpa consider themselves descendants of the ancient Aryans, and they really cannot be confused with any other people. Tall stature, stately posture, green eyes, high cheekbones, light skin, some have blonde hair. It is strange enough to see such people on the territory of modern Pakistan. There are also the Kalashi people, a kindred branch, who have white skin and bright blue eyes. Members of the community also claim to be direct descendants of the soldiers of Alexander the Great's army, who stayed here after Alexander stopped his military campaign in 326 BC and turned back home. Imagine, they stayed in this region almost 2,000 years ago and still maintained their isolated community. Anthropologists have argued much about this concept and have concluded that the Brokpa are most likely descendants of the first wave of Indo-Europeans who came to the lands north of India. Another striking feature of their appearance is their desire to adorn themselves with color and flowers as much as possible. They believe so piously in the powers of the rainbow that this color therapy acts on them as medicine or as a prophylactic, simply prevents any ailments. silver jewelry as if protects from the harmful influence of the planets, and the feather of the peacock protects from paralysis. Apparently, all these beds on the head have worked perfectly well for 2,000 years, because this tribe is indeed characterized by good health and friendly character. Ten years before this tribe was discovered, UNESCO recognized the Phong Nha Kabang areas as a national park and World Heritage Site in Vietnam. This region is known for its system of caves and grottos totaling about 70 kilometers in length, of which only 20 have been explored by British and Vietnamese speleologists, and these are the largest known caves on the planet. Soon, local and foreign tourists began to visit the park, but no one knew that deep in the jungle of the national park lived people. And they didn't know that they were now living in a national park. The tribe called themselves Ruck Crayfish, which means cave in the local dialect. Long years of isolated life had made them shy rather than aggressive. They were not threatened. They favored a primitive lifestyle, and little is known about their culture. Imagine a man climbing trees like a chimpanzee. These unclothed people swing on branches like swings, have no family names or clans, and live in caves where rainwater seeps in. They usually run away from strangers and still strive to live a natural life of hunting and gathering in the mountains. You will say, so what? Someone wants to stay free and not travel to offices. Then I'll tell you, could you sleep sitting up like the people of this cave tribe? Although they probably wouldn't mind accepting the benefits of civilization unlike most tribes. One important thing to realize is that while you and I are swapping new smartphone models for super new ones, all these original people continue to hunt and fish without any need to change their lives. That's why I think the gap between us is getting wider and wider, and how to know which of us has a better chance of survival in case of a global catastrophe. That's why I'm not inclined to hang labels. Every nation lives the way they like and the way it works out. We should recognize that the main condition for life on the planet is its diversity. And some people have a different way of counting down the clock. They're not rushing into the 21st century. That's all for today. If you liked the issue and want to see something similar or maybe the next installment, then put likes, write comments, subscribe to the Top Facts channel, and check out our previous top issues right now.